In the heart of Okilu, a village nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, the people lived in harmony with the land and its spirits. Okilu was a place where time seemed to linger, where children ran freely, and elders shared stories under the ancient Iroko tree as the orange sun dipped behind the hills. Among the villagers was Edwo, a man revered for his knowledge of herbs, for his keen understanding of the forest, and for a quiet calm that seemed as much a part of him as his shadow. But beneath this calm exterior, a dark ambition stirred, a longing that his neighbors could not see. It all began during a festival in honor of Baba Agba, the village chief, a wise elder who had led Okilu for decades with justice and compassion. That day, the people celebrated with dancing, drumming, and laughter, paying homage to a leader they loved deeply. Edwo watched from the edge of the crowd, his eyes never leaving Baba Agba. He saw the respect in the villagers' eyes, the deference in their voices. They looked upon Baba Agba as if he were a living legend, an embodiment of their heritage and their pride. And in Edwo's heart, a bitter seed of envy sprouted. As the festivities wore on, Edwo's thoughts grew darker. Why him? Why not me? He thought. I know the herbs, I know the land. I could lead these people to greatness. A voice within him seemed to whisper promises of power, telling him that Okilu could be his, if only he had the courage to seize it. That night, as the villagers feasted and danced, Edwo slipped away into the forest. He had heard whispers of a spirit that dwelled deep in the caves beyond the village, a spirit said to grant unimaginable power, but at a price. The journey to the cave was treacherous, with thorny bushes tearing at his clothes and shadows shifting in the moonlight. But Edwo's desire was stronger than his fear, and he pushed forward. When he finally reached the mouth of the cave, he paused, his heart pounding. The cave loomed before him, dark and silent, like the maw of a great beast waiting to devour him. Yet he pressed on, chanting an ancient incantation he had learned from his father, one that his father had warned him never to use. The spirit appeared in a swirl of smoke and shadow, a figure so terrible that Edwo had to avert his eyes. It spoke with a voice like the rumble of thunder. You have called me, human. Why have you disturbed my slumber? Edwo swallowed his fear. I seek power, he said. I seek to rule Okilu. The spirit's laughter echoed through the cave, cold and mocking. Power, it whispered. Power always comes at a price. I will pay it, Edwo said, his voice steady. He did not flinch, even as the spirit's gaze bore into him, its eyes glowing like embers in the dark. Very well, the spirit replied. The price for power is life, a life close to you, a sacrifice from your own village. Do you accept? For a moment, Edwo hesitated. The weight of what he was about to do hung heavy in the air. But the promise of power, of the throne of respect, was too strong. With a nod, he sealed his fate. The spirit disappeared, leaving Edwo alone in the darkness, the weight of his decision settling upon him. The journey back to Okilu felt endless, his thoughts a mix of excitement and fear. When he returned to the village, he resumed his role as the quiet healer, the observant villager, but his mind was consumed with thoughts of his plan. The spirit had demanded a life, and Edwo knew exactly whose it would be. In the days that followed, Baba Agba fell ill. The villagers came to Edwo, pleading for his help. He visited Baba Agba, offering him herbs and potions, all the while masking his intentions. The chief's strength faded, his once vibrant spirit waning with each passing day. The villagers wept and prayed, hoping for a miracle, but Edwo knew there would be none. One evening, as the village gathered in sorrow, word spread that Baba Agba had joined their ancestors. The wails of mourning filled the air, but Edwo remained silent, his heart a storm of guilt and triumph. With Baba Agba gone, the villagers turned to Edwo, asking him to lead them. After all, who else could guide them through their grief, heal their wounds, and protect their land? Edwo accepted, and with his ascension, he felt a surge of power, a thrill that made him feel invincible. At first, his reign was prosperous. Edwo used his knowledge of herbs and his sharp mind to improve the village's fortunes. He ensured that the farms flourished, that the livestock thrived, and that the people's needs were met. The villagers praised him, calling him a leader of great wisdom and strength. But beneath the surface, Edwo was haunted. The spirit's demand echoed in his mind, a constant reminder of his death. Each night, in the silence of his compound, he saw shadows flickering, heard whispers that clawed at his sanity. The spirit had granted him power, but it had also taken a piece of his soul. As the years passed, Edwo's fear grew. He began to see threats in every corner, enemies in every face. He ruled with an iron fist, crushing anyone who dared to question his authority. The villagers, once proud and free, grew weary under his rule, their spirits broken. Children no longer laughed, elders no longer gathered to tell stories, and the once vibrant village became a place of silence and dread. One night, as a storm raged outside, Edwo lay alone, tormented by the spirit's laughter echoing in his mind. The spirit appeared at his bedside, its voice thick with mockery and menace. "Edwo," it whispered. "You thought you could escape the price. Your debt is still unpaid." Desperation gripped Edwo's heart. "I have given you a life," he pleaded, his voice trembling. "I have honored our pact. But power has its own hunger," the spirit replied. "And so long as you sit on that throne, it will devour you from within. This is the course you have chosen." Driven to madness, Edwo fled from his compound, running into the forest, seeking escape from the torments that had become his life. He wandered for days, lost in the shadows, pursued by the spirit and his own guilt, until he was swallowed by the darkness, never to return. In Okilu, the people eventually returned to their lives, their sorrow tempered by the resilience that had always guided them. They spoke of Edwo as a cautionary tale, a man who had traded his soul for power, only to lose everything he held dear. And under the ancient Iroko tree, the elders warned the young ones of the dangers of ambition unchecked, of power that consumes all it touches, leaving only regret in its wake. And so, the story of Edwo lived on, a reminder to the people of Okilu that some sacrifices are too great, and that true power lies not in ruling over others, but in living with a heart at peace, bound by the trust and love of one's community.